Musical and artistic creativity have been a part of the Sinai experience since the very beginning. Come with us now as we meet some of the people who bring new and interesting facets to that creativity. This is Musical Mondays Plus. Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Musical Mondays Plus. Today we're going to be meeting and honoring Temple Sinai's composer in residence, Ben Steinberg. An internationally recognized composer, conductor, and scholar, Ben has brought tremendous depth of meaning, feeling, joy, and enjoyment to this congregation over the years because of his beautiful compositions, because of the beautiful music that he has brought to our worship services, and because of the concerts that he has organized and run. Today we're going to be joined by very special people. We're going to be joined by two winners of the Ben Steinberg Musical Legacy Award. One is Rebecca Gitter, who is now with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and the other is Igor Gefter with the Toronto Symphony, as well as a chance for us to meet and talk with Machi and Ben Steinberg themselves. So I'd like to invite you now to sit back and enjoy. Our interviewer today is David Eisner.
Welcome, everybody. My name is David Eisner. I'm artistic director of the Harold Green Jewish Theater Company and Temple Sinai member, and we're thrilled to have with us. You might know Lance Gitter. This is his daughter, who also grew up at Temple Sinai, Rebecca Gitter, for a wonderful conversation about the viola and her career, which is really remarkable. Ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca Gitter. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Let me start off with just a little icebreaker. I know COVID, you're in Boston?
I am.
Or just outside Boston? Just outside Boston?
Just outside Boston. We live in Carlisle, which is just north of the famous Concord, Massachusetts.
Right. And it's been difficult for everyone with COVID. What is it that you think, has it changed you in any positive way, and what might you keep after, God willing, this is past us?
Really difficult time, definitely. I'm getting to spend a lot of time with my family and not stressing over traffic going into the city and all that good stuff.
You have a daughter?
I have a 6.5-year-old. She turned 6.5 yesterday. It was very festive. We had some cake.
Right.
And my husband has been growing a massive vegetable garden and selling whatever we don't eat at a farm stand at the end of the table, at the end of the driveway.
Right. Oh, wow.
He's a former chef, so we've been living very much farm to table, and it's been great.
Lucky you there. Yeah.
Yeah. Our daughter goes out and has veggie snacks from the garden every day. She just, whatever she wants, she just picks it and eats, which is great.
Amazing. Is there anything that you might keep, that we've all experienced this sort of change in lifestyle, and time is even different? What might you take with you as a legacy from this, if anything?
An appreciation for what I'm missing, definitely. 19 years of playing in an orchestra, I saw friends every day. The sound of 100 people playing together in perfect unity is just, it's priceless. You just can't get that. We won't get that for a while because you can't gather. And I dearly miss it every day. So I think just an appreciation for what we can't do right now.
That's well said. I think gratitude of the normalcy of life, the simple things in life, is really something that I think we'll all take away from it. Let's start from the beginning with you, Rebecca. I know you you started on the violin before you got to the viola, and you were how old?
I started on the violin. I was 7. I was almost 8 when I started. I'd started on piano before that with my mother teaching me. That was a short-lived experience, but very good foundation for music. And actually, my daughter just started studying piano over FaceTime with my mom just a few weeks ago, which is very sweet.
Oh, that is so cool. What inspired you to even start with? Does your family have a background in music, or you just took?
Well, my mom is a pianist. She I think she put herself basically through university teaching piano on the side.
Uh-huh.
And so she has a long history of being a pianist, a beautiful pianist at that.
Right. So it's in the family.
When I was a Suzuki, I studied Suzuki violin when I was a kid. And she would accompany all the students from my teacher's studio. And she was amazing at following anybody who had bad rhythm or, made mistakes. She was just always right with them, very sensitive.
Wow. And then you went from the violin to the viola. And why, I mean, it looks like a violin, it's slightly bigger. If you can take us through the difference, but also why you made that shift.
Well, when I started violin, I think my brother was jealous, and so he asked to play too. And so they got him a cello. And then I wanted to play cello, but now Ben was playing cello, so I'm not allowed to play cello. I always liked the deeper voice. And so I don't remember exactly how old I was, but by the time I was like 12, I was fully playing viola. As it started out as a compromise, and then I just fell in love with the timbre of the instrument. It's a fifth lower than the violin and an octave higher than the cello. And our role in stuff like orchestra and chamber music is very much like the inner harmonies that kind of give everything the richness and complexity. And I was never really a diva when it came to musical roles, so the inner workings really spoke to me.
It's amazing how sibling rivalry or issues come into play in what we do in our life. Does your brother, is he still involved in music?
He is. He still teaches. He does maybe less performing than he did before, especially right now. But he's also doing some real estate work.
Oh, I see.
But both he and his wife are music teachers.
Amazing. And you grew up at Temple Sinai. I know your dad, Lance, been a member for your mom for many, many years.
Yeah, I had my bat mitzvah there.
Right.
Back in 1991. I remember it was a Friday the 13th. I was upset at my parents for scheduling it for a Friday the 13th.
My bar mitzvah was on Saturday the 13th. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
March 13th. And good memories?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't spend a ton of time at Temple Sinai.
Right.
I know my parents have really connected back to the community in the past decade or so.
And we all kind of shift and as we grow, I think with our connection to whether it's synagogue or temple and our connection to faith. Has faith played any role in your life in any capacity so far as, this is an odd question, but with music or just in your life in general, or?
Honestly, not a huge role.
Right.
I'm in a mixed marriage. My husband's family is Christian, but neither me or my husband are particularly religious people.
Right.
We bring up our daughter with an appreciation for both our families' religions so that she is comfortable in both families and familiar with all the rituals around the different holidays. This year for Passover, she made some toy plagues. We did some art projects, and we had a Zoom Seder with my family in Toronto, actually all over the world. I think
wow.
there were people from all over the world at it. So she got a bit of a sense of the Passover Seder.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. I'm an actor and I've got involved in theater. We do our best as performers, and once in a while, we hit a transcendent moment in a performance or something where we connect in such a profound way that, or the play hits when you get to be in something that's profound and it hits a transcendent moment. Is it the same with music sometimes? Speaking about divinity, but a transcendent moment with whether the meshing of the orchestra hits this played perfectly, and it was this beautiful piece of music that is divine, so to speak.
Absolutely. One piece that speaks to me whenever I play it is Muller's First Symphony. It happened to be the piece that the orchestra was playing the week that my grandmother passed away.
Mm.
I'd played it a number of times, and she passed away in the middle of the week, kind of unexpectedly. And I'd gone home for the funeral and come back and played the final performance of it, and it was very difficult to play. It was it's a very emotional piece. And I always, when I play that piece, I recall that time, and I feel a connection to my grandmother.
Fascinating. This Pavlovian connection of emotion that's connected to that piece of history.
Yeah.
And that's, very true. So I find that fascinating. So you're on the viola, you've studied that, you go to Cleveland and get your Bachelor of Music in Cleveland, but you also won the Ben Steinberg Musical Legacy Award at Temple Sinai. Can you tell us a little about the process and what that meant to you?
I have to be honest that I don't remember a lot about the process.
Oh, swell. Okay.
It was a long time ago. It was very exciting to be awarded. I knew Ben Steinberg quite well.
Oh, wow. So that makes it special.
And also to have the opportunity to play a full-length recital in the synagogue that I grew up in front of an audience of family and friends and my parents' friends. It was very special because honestly, since going to the States, I haven't had that many performance opportunities in Canada, because I left at the end of high school and not at the end of college. I didn't make the connections that would, be calling me up to come play in Canada so much. So it was a very special moment to be able to go and share my music with my community.
Absolutely. And you've won other awards, but you were with the Boston Symphony and the Boston Pops since 2000 and?
Since 2001.
Wow, so for 19 years.
Yeah.
2017, you got to come back to Canada.
Yes.
That must have been cool.
We performed at Roy Thompson, and that was really, really fun to play there. I hadn't played there since I was in the Toronto Symphony Youth Orchestra.
Right. So that's cool. Do you enjoy life in the States? I mean,
I do. We live in a wonderful corner of the country.
Right.
There's a lot to not be happy about right now in this country. I don't want to go into politics or anything.
Right.
But our little corner has a good head on its shoulders. Let's put it that way.
Right.
We live in a small town of 5,000 people with a very tight-knit community, which is really nice. You feel you can reach out to your neighbors and have support. And there's a pretty strong similarity in people's belief structures, maybe not spiritually, but
as humans, just
as
values.
humans, yeah. We like to think of ourselves as humanists,
Mhm.
you know, and what's good for the human race and for the world. We do a lot of things, like we put solar panels on our roof and
Mm.
drive an electric car and try and grow our own food and not use too much electricity if we can. Um,
And sell some of the food that you're not going to use, or as you say, and you also offer up music on driveways, which has been,
yeah,
I would say, so profoundly meaningful to so many people. Something about just the instruments of music, or excuse me, my light in the office goes out.
right.
The that hits right to our soul and heart. Can you talk a little bit about how that happened and what you've been doing with that?
Um, yeah, so the orchestra shut down on March 12th, actually between youth concerts. We played one at 10 a.m. that had maybe 2 or 3 classes show up. And by 11 a.m., they were sending us home. And,
Wow.
you know, I left my shoes in the tuning room. Like, I haven't been back.
Yeah.
No idea that everything, that the world was just shutting down on that day at that
Mhm.
time. And I just started practicing, making sure I was practicing every day and staying in shape. And after a couple of months, I felt the need to connect to people. And I knew there was a population of perhaps the elderly who were very isolated. Perhaps they were living at home alone here in Carlisle, with no family nearby,
Mhm.
or they're in senior living communities. They couldn't go anywhere. They used to come to Symphony. And so there's a council on aging in town that provides programming and assistance. And so I contacted a lady who helps run this. And I said, do you know anyone who might like a driveway concert or a musical offering or anything? You know, I play viola. I can come play for 25, 30 minutes for them. Anytime, just let me know. And so first she connected me with very nice 94-year-old gentleman who was living alone, former professor, but also, I think, engineering professor, but also a former Army clarinetist who
Wow.
just loved music. And so I went and I played in his driveway for him. And then she sent me to there's 3 different senior living facilities in town. And I played outdoors for them. Some people stayed in their rooms and opened the windows. Some people came and sat on lawn chairs outside with masks on. And just last week, 2 of my colleagues and I played string trios
Mm.
in the parking lot of the Congregational Church here. I guess the pastor there had a system for broadcasting through an FM channel into
Oh, wow.
people's cars. So this was approved by the local police department, and people had to sign up for the event, and they came and they parked their cars. They could sit outside their car on a lawn chair, but 10 feet from anyone else, or sit in their car and listen. And we played an hour-long program.
Amazing. The trio. Wow.
Yeah, it just felt so good to connect with an audience and play for
Mhm.
people.
That's remarkable. And it's really the gratitude that they must have and the feeling of uh, giving something through the love of what you do to others to lift up their spirits. It's things that happen during this time. Just shifting a little bit, is it quite a bit different? And what do you prefer playing with this large, I don't know, is it 30 some odd, 40 some odd piece orchestra, the Boston Symphony?
100 piece.
Oh my God, I'm a little
Yeah,
off. Okay,
we've
100
got
piece
it.
orchestra, which must sound so incredible, and a 3-piece trio. What are some of the differences and some of the in the sense of what you prefer in each, and how do you compare it?
So it's incredibly different. I mean, your role as one of 12 violas on stage is to blend and to support what your principal player is doing. There's nothing quite like 60 string players playing pianissimo at the same time. You just can't get that sound. But when you play chamber music, you have your voice, your interpretation, and your musical intentions are felt much more strongly by everybody on stage, as opposed to just your stand partner or the people around you. And so you can really communicate emotion in a stronger way when you're playing chamber music or solo music. But there really is nothing like playing a Muller symphony with 100 other people on stage.
I almost think of it in acting, of performing on stage and performing for film. There's an intimacy in film, and you just sort of film moments, and you want to get the honesty, it has to be there. And opposed to the stage where you're going from the whole story within 2 hours, and there's a slightly heightened but authenticity to it. I find that both sort of complement each other as an actor for the performer. Is that the same with you, so far as you become a better player because you do both?
Absolutely. One thing I'm getting in this time, this is kind of a forced sabbatical. I toyed with the idea of taking a sabbatical some year to maybe drive across the country in an RV to Alaska with my family. Because the BSO, we play all year long because of Tanglewood. So really, you don't get more than 3 weeks off at a time ever.
Wow.
So, which is fantastic. I mean, 3 weeks off, that's great. But you can't have a chunk of time unless you take a sabbatical or leave of absence. And also with the orchestra, at Tanglewood, we would play 3 programs in a week, 3 full programs. So that's like 6-7 hours worth of music to be prepared to play every week. And during the symphony season, it's a brand new program every week. So basically, and I had an hour-long commute to work. So basically, I would be on survival mode constantly, making sure I was prepared for the first rehearsal of the next week's program. And right now, I'm getting to explore music I haven't explored since I was a student, like the Bach suites and the Bach sonatas and partitas for violin on viola, and Brahms sonatas, and all kinds of things that I haven't touched in years.
Right. It's been great. And this trip to Alaska, does that include music?
No,
just this escape.
That would be an adventure. It would be reliving something my husband did when he was 9.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Is there any orchestrations that you just so look forward to playing, or that you love, or that are your favorite?
I'm a classics person. I really love playing the Mozart and Beethoven symphonies. Beethoven Eroica is one of my favorite things in the world to play. Mozart Jupiter, his 41st symphony, his last symphony, is one of the most brilliant things ever. Muller symphonies. Yeah.
And what about when music that you, this is an odd question, but maybe that you don't connect with? I guess then it's serviceable and you just do the work, and you.
Absolutely.
That happened?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's for actors too, by the way.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been put on hold at this point, but we've been recording the full cycle of Shostakovich symphonies. And some of them really speak to you. Like, they're really intense and heartfelt, and I mean, they're all intense and heartfelt, but some of them really speak to you, and some of them you just have to
Not
do.
so much. Yeah. You get through it, but it's interesting. Yeah. And we're going to listen to a 10-minute piece as we come near the end of our interview that you did. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So it was a little iMovie that I put together for the orchestra. They were collecting things to put on their website of BSO musicians at home. So there's a few segments where I'm playing. I think I play some Bach. I play a full movement of Bach at the end. It's the Sarabande from the 5th Suite, which I found particularly meaningful in isolation at home here. It's the same movement that Yo-Yo Ma played, I think, at the 70th anniversary of D-Day in Paris under the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, wow.
With all the world leaders there. It's a very inward, melancholy movement. There's, it's a video, it's a collection of what we've been doing. I play a little bit of a Paul Coletti piece to the plants that are seedlings at the time, saying maybe they'll grow. My daughter, my husband are in it. The pets, my dog likes to sing along. It's just a fun
Real
little
eclectic piece. Well, that's
little
amazing.
iMovie that I put together.
Well, this is Musical Mondays, so what a treat to get 10 minutes of this beautiful video. And Rebecca, I look forward for you to eventually getting back to the social life of a musician involved with such a beautiful symphony as the Boston Symphony. And thank you so much for sharing and illuminating to our audience what you do.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting.
Thank you. Pleasure, and enjoy this video.
My name is Rebecca Gitter. I've been a member of the Boston Symphony Viola section since 2001. This season is a little bit different than usual. Not being at work is difficult. I miss all my colleagues, and I miss playing the wonderful music with such amazing musicians and beautiful hall. We're doing everything we can to stay active and enjoying the beautiful spring weather with socially distant exercise. I've greatly been enjoying bike rides in the countryside at off times so that I don't see too many people. We're actively working on growing a big garden, and I'm hoping my viola playing is helping the plants. My daughter has been helping me with some of my work, especially with visualizing the sunrise from Daphnis and Chloe by Ravel. Daphnis is a pretty major viola excerpt when it comes to auditions, and so she used some of her artistic skills to interpret the sunrise for me. Practicing with a full house has been fantastic adversity training. I look forward to performing again for our wonderful audiences at Symphony Hall in Tanglewood again in the future. Until that time, I'll be here at home performing for our very own homegrown audience. Thank you to all the essential workers.
I was the winner of 1992 Ben Steinberg Musical Legacy Award. Having just come to Canada from Ukraine, I did not know many musicians nor people in the field. Yet I was fortunate enough to meet a fellow named Vadim Serebryanny. Vadim is a fabulous pianist, and we hit it off famously. We became close friends and partners in a cello-piano duo. Now, it is interesting that Vadim was a winner of the same award in 1991 and told me all about it. He put me in touch with Mr. Steinberg and encouraged me to apply. Now, when I called Ben, he welcomed me with open arms and his usual warmth. I didn't really understand much about the process of application, and he was incredibly patient with me and in his guidance how to go through the process, how to apply, how to make a professional audition tape. And one of my aspirations at the time was to go study to New York City, to the famous Juilliard School. And I told Ben about it. He was very happy to hear that I had such high goals, and he was very encouraging in this process as well. I did go to Juilliard to take an audition that spring and got in. Now, when I came back, it was time for the award concert, and I performed the recital at Temple Sinai. It was a great success, and it was a phenomenal opportunity for me to show myself off in a professional manner. It must have been probably one of the very, very first opportunities that I was given in this country, and I'm forever grateful for that. Now, I had gotten news that I got into Juilliard, but unfortunately didn't really get much of a scholarship to go there. Of course, looking at what it cost at the time, it was way beyond any means that my parents were able to afford. I had a meeting with Ben and told him about it. He said to me, "Well, let me see what I can do." Soon after that, he got in touch with me and said that I found you a benefactor. The late Joseph Berman agreed to help me out in my quest to study at the Juilliard School. This was an absolutely incredible opportunity, and having not had that opportunity, I wouldn't have gone to New York. I would have stayed in Toronto, and my life probably wouldn't have been the same. I am grateful to Ben forever for having done what he has done for me, for having such a great understanding of a young person's needs with talent and aspirations, and encouraging me to go through this process, and having been instrumental part of this process and the success. Now, years later, I came back to Toronto as a musician and cellist with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. Now I'm happy to say that I'm sitting on the other side and have become a judge for the Ben Steinberg Musical Legacy Award, which brings me great happiness and makes me very proud to be involved in this process, as I have gone through it myself. And we see great Canadian talent here, and we love to encourage their professional development. And we are, as a group, we're forever grateful to Ben Steinberg for having created this opportunity for young Canadian talents. And on a personal level, I am forever grateful to Ben for this opportunity that he presented me with. This is a movement called Gigue from Bach's 6 cello suites. And this is from suite number 1 in G major.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Eisner from the Harold Green Jewish Theater Company, also a Temple Sinai member. And welcome to another edition of Musical Mondays. Today is an extra special one. We have with us, who will be joining us shortly, we see on the screen Ben Steinberg's wife, Machi, who will be doing most of the interview, but Ben will be joining us shortly. Ben is an incredible gentleman. For the last 50 years, been the composer in residence. Here he is right here. And he's 90 years old. He's a remarkable gentleman who is a composer, a conductor, a musical educator, and that just touches the surface. It's really a privilege and honor. He's known worldwide for some of his compositions and been honored around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Steinberg and Machi Steinberg.
Nice to meet you, David.
A pleasure. And we're in the middle of this COVID. It's August 11th. How are you guys been coping? And has there been anything, I'm trying to think of the positive, has there been anything that's that you can take as a legacy that you might continue once, God willing, we get past this, that it's taught us that it's taught you in some capacity of changing our lifestyle in some way?
Well, I'll speak to that.
Go ahead.
What has been the positive?
I'm the administrator of all
Yes.
things household. What it has meant to us, David, it has brought completely different meaning for family to us, because our kids have stepped up and stepped in and taken over the shopping duties and the driving duties and the picking up of prescriptions and whatever needs to be done. So we value the family so much more. And we're going to be sure to say we love them much more, many times.
It's funny, it's been a reversal in the sense of kids taking care of older parents.
Exactly.
Ben, did you have anything to add?
Just Mildred.
Just Mildred. So
No,
Ben,
I'm only kidding.
oh. I can smile big now because I have my tooth back as of this morning. For 3 months, I didn't have a tooth beside my big tooth. I had a little-
Good for you. I'm glad you got it back.
yes, and now I'm smiling with a full set of teeth.
That's beautiful.
Too much information. Talking about Ben Steinberg, you grew up in Winnipeg. And I think,
Well, I don't know if growing up is a little bit too much there, because I came to Toronto very early in the game.
I see. But your dad, Alexander, was a cantor.
He was a cantor, and he became the cantor at Sherry Shemayim in Toronto.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Which is a very well-known Orthodox synagogue.
Yeah.
And that's really where I was initially raised.
And you started in the choir at age 8, and then started conducting at 12.
With your father's choir.
I guess it was 12. Yeah, started conducting at 12. I mean, I was singing in the choir when I was very young, and so that was sort of one very early position in my life. And then, of course, I began to conduct and eventually to write.
Wow. What were some of the early inspirations or triggers that connected you to music? Your dad is there every Saturday, but personally, what is it that inspired you and egged you to really continue this?
To continue it?
Or I should say, connect you to this world of music that you've gone into? What were some of the inspirations? The writing and the singing, was it just an evolution, or is it something that you've always loved from the beginning, or?
It was part of my life. One didn't think about whether to.
I see.
You just did it, and you were expected to do it, and it would have been very strange if we didn't do it.
Right. So it was just part of your everyday life.
Part of it, absolutely, yes.
And I'm going to bring it up now because I find it fascinating when you look at people like Spinoza or like Freud. They come from a certain Orthodox world, but then exposed to a secular world, and lightning in a bottle sometimes hits. And was that similar? I know that's an odd analogy, but in some ways, because you had a secular career in music as well as an educator. Did that combination sort of serve you in very positive ways?
Oh, in very positive ways, of course. As I learned more and more, I could delve deeper and deeper into what was part of my life as a child. And as a child, as a child composer, initially one didn't think of themselves as a composer, but as a child musician, and gradually building. Whoops, can you get that?
We'll call him back.
Yeah.
Oh, that's your daughter.
Yeah, it's my daughter.
Oh, great. And we'll talk a little later on. Both your children, the fruit didn't fall far from the tree, or also have long careers in the music business.
Oh, absolutely. They grew up as musicians the same
Right.
way that I did. My daughter literally grew up at the piano with me.
Wow.
David, what
Oh,
did
no
you just
worries.
say? I missed the question.
No, we were just talking about your daughter for a second, but we were talking about growing up Orthodox and then going to the secular world, and how that you dug a little deeper, you mentioned, because you could call upon some of your early works as a child within the secular world.
Yeah, that's true. It became wider and wider, and the deeper you were encouraged to go, and that became not a threat to me as a composer, but rather as an encourager.
That's amazing. And that's something that you've transferred from Orthodox to the Reform movement, which allows you to do that.
Yeah, and that was the roots, which, like as it was with every composer who encountered those things together. What I looked upon as music which was older, which is more familiar, that became more of a challenge to become more interesting.
Mm-hmm. How do you take the traditional and give it a modern or new feel to it, but keeping it?
It's not so much a new. It's rather
Using it.
yeah, well, using it in different ways.
Finding the best.
It became a foundation actually for him. His experience in the Orthodox with the nusach and the modes and his father's voice in his ear, he was able to incorporate all those wonderful traditional sounds into his new music. And his bolt of lightning came when he discovered the Reformed temple, which enabled him and supported him greatly in writing his new music. We call it new music. Ben was a prodigy when he was younger. When his father brought the piano home, when you were how old, 8?
Yeah.
He was like a genius. He sat down at the piano and played. He had never played in his life before, but it was all in there waiting to come out. And he spent about 8 hours the first day he had his piano and taught himself how to play. So you hum a tune to him and he can play it back.
Wow.
Or if he's heard a song once, he can play it back. He's that kind of prodigy. And what probably initially led him to composition was when he was conducting his father's choir. I know this because he's told me the stories.
Right.
Sometimes there was need for a little bridge in a piece. He would write it and he would teach it to the choir. And that was the beginning of his compositional career.
Essentially, yeah, essentially that's true.
He wrote as needed, in effect.
Sure.
When pieces were needed.
Connecting the sort of segments, and then that led to even larger.
Right.
Yes, of course.
That's a gift in itself, finding of the
Yes.
bridge, and You know, we're going to take a tiny musical break here. I shouldn't say tiny because it's a beautiful piece, Kol Zman. This is with the New York Philharmonic, I believe, or the Met.
No, that's the Vision of Isaiah.
Oh, the Met.
Okay.
We're going to go
David,
to the Vision of Isaiah. That's the one I
oh, you're
titled
going
it.
to Vision?
Yes, that was specifically because you've done so many compositions, Ben, for anniversaries, and this is a unique anniversary, the 150th anniversary of a particular synagogue.
In Long Island, yes.
Right.
And I should tell you, David, that Ben had primarily written for commission. When he was asked to write, and it was usually for a special occasion. This was, as you said, the 150th anniversary. Long Island, New York. The soloist in this piece is Richard Tucker, who was a preeminent opera singer, who was also a cantor, whose brother-in-law was also a cantor, who you may remember,
Yes.
Jan Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
So Richard Tucker is singing on this premiere performance of Vision of Isaiah, taking from the prophet Isaiah, the book of Isaiah. It describes his vision of God sitting on his throne, surrounded by his seraphim, whose wings enfold him and protect him. And Isaiah gets the message from God that he must go out and bring the message to the people, I suppose, of peace and unity. And Isaiah responds, "Here I am, I will go." And
Beautiful.
it's orchestra and chorus, I think. But
Well, it was beautiful, and it was that kind of piece and that kind of encouragement that really allowed me to do what I did.
Yeah.
Encouragement.
How long would it take you, just before we listen to the piece, to write something like the Vision of Isaiah?
Like Vision of Isaiah.
yeah, it's 8 minutes long.
Every piece has its own character, and that's about the best way I can describe it. And its character is part of what creates the new piece. You don't just create it by yourself.
I hear what you're saying. There's
Some-
design.
Ben used to say, some pieces write themselves because of the text. Other pieces take a lot of birth pangs before it comes to fruition. So you can't really say how long it takes.
They're all
Some
individual.
take up to a year.
I hear. So let's listen to the Vision of Isaiah, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes right after.
Okay.
now through the luxury of editing, we're back.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Welcome.
that's such a magnificent piece of music. And it's fascinating. You say it's sort of each individual piece has its own struggles or the opposite of struggle. It comes to inspirations. Or do you have any favorites? Because you talk about it sort of giving birth. It's sort of like children, these great musical pieces in a way. Do you have any favorite pieces that you
Oh, well, that's
created?
that's sort of like lining up your children that you
A little
love.
unfair.
This is the only one that I put. No, I'm very fortunate in being able to write in a whole variety of
Genres.
of genres, yes, and pieces which do their own contribution. Every piece doesn't do what I tell it to do. Every piece that occurs to me.
Tell David how you begin. How do you begin
What?
your writing process?
Certainly not in the same way each time.
No, but basically, what comes first?
The idea of what you're trying to
The
do.
idea, and then the text. The text is the most important because it establishes the rhythm.
Right.
And usually the Hebrew, which he is fastidious about. The Hebrew must be correct and intelligently sung. And once he has done the research into the text and understands it completely, then he can begin the music. Right? Am I right, Ben?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
you
that's
know,
the
now you know why I
foundation.
invited her.
Yes, that's right. It is amazing though, when you get the text done, how music, it really hits a sort of a through line to one's heart and soul. I know as a theater person, we did a play this year before COVID, The Pianist of Williston Lane, and it's a true story. And our audience, I took note, just she's a classical pianist, and it just hit them right in the heart in a profound way. As I know, music, this was classical music, and you add that layer of religious element to it, of faith to it. It's amazing how music just goes directly to the heart and soul.
Exactly.
It does indeed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Ben used to say that music is the universal language, that everybody understands music, even without words. And that's why the Hasidim sing their nigunim without words, because the joy and the emotion is in the music itself.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And to have the Ben Steinberg Literary Award, Music Legacy Award, it's been going on. I've already interviewed two recipients, Jacqueline Grossman and Rebecca Gitter, who were. It's so apropos to have a Jewish musician on the brink of their career, because you taught for so many years and helped so many people in their musical career. What does that give you when you know that the Musical Legacy Award has been going on for these many years and has helped so many musicians, Jewish musicians?
It gives you really a thrill that you can't get in any other way for so many reasons. You know, I could go on for a long time. Excuse me.
Because I know that you're as an educator, it's a big part of your career as well.
Yes, of course.
And that must really satisfy a certain element of your life, of helping the next generation. How do you when was the last time that you were involved? I know you're retired, but involved in teaching, or do people still come and ask for your advice?
Oh my goodness, yeah. You never you never really retire. I don't think you could retire if you tried. At least I use the word in the general sense. But
he still gets phone calls from people he's mentored over the years from all over the United States. He's
Is that
very
right?
well known down there.
Right.
And he has always mentored young musicians, artists and composers alike. And that's why the Guild of Temple Musicians has named an award after him, the Young Composers Award, which is given annually down there. And I don't know, anybody, I think, under 30, is that the age? I think they've raised the age now to 35,
Right.
can apply. And it's wonderful that they remember him in this way as an educator and a mentor to young people.
It's like rearing a very, very large family that keeps growing.
Oh, that's so true. And your life will live on for many, many, many years through your work with other people, starting with your kids.
Starting with our kids.
Yes.
I mean, both your kids are involved in the music. If you want to let us know. Yeah.
They are. Well, yes, they do. They are involved. My daughter.
She is an early childhood music educator.
Wow.
Who taught at the conservatory for over 25 years, I think.
At the Toronto Conservatory.
And she is now retired, but she herself is a prodigy. She also sat down at the piano at the age of 3 and began to play. She matching tunes with Ben. But at the age of 5 in kindergarten, she was supporting the kindergarten teacher by accompanying the sing-songs in kindergarten. She became the accompanist. So she has Ben's talent.
Wow. And
Our
used
son,
it.
yeah.
And it's something that we both, and many others, of course, use with great pleasure.
And they love to play duets because they both have the same talent and skill, where they just hear it once and then they can play it. And they can play duets without rehearsing. They just sit down and do it. And everybody, it's mind-boggling, but it's
What a
gift.
lovely thing to have together as a father and daughter.
It is. It's a great gift.
Yeah.
Our son is also somewhat of a musician, but
I think you have to give him more than that.
okay.
Our son is he's just not a classical musician as I am. He's
He was a rock drummer and a singer.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Also a little bit of a composer who had a little bit of a career before he decided he wasn't going to get the brass ring in rock. So he better do something to earn a living. And he went to law school. And he's now one of the most well-known entertainment lawyers in Canada.
Wow. Amazing.
His name is also David.
Oh, there you go.
Steinberg.
Okay.
He spends a lot of time down in California.
Yeah.
Wow.
Does a lot of his writing down there.
In the music business as a lawyer or all entertainment?
All entertainment. He is the lawyer for the band Rush, for instance.
Sure. Wow.
You probably know those.
I do. I don't know them personally, but I do know that the lead,
Geddy
Lee,
Lee.
whose real name is Gary, but his mother would say Geddy.
That's how we pronounce ours.
That's right.
With the Yiddish accent, so he retained it. Kind of cute.
And so your connection to Temple Sinai, as I mentioned, has been profound with that Musical Legacy Award, but also being composer in residence. 50 years, 1970. It's remarkable. It's such a large body of work, and a lot of, what does that, looking back, feel like? Or
well, it's an odd it's a question. It's a good question you're asking, but it relates really in so many ways to specific people and how they approached music and what they saw as important things in musical ways.
right, contribute to the service or as well as concerts and right.
Yeah, they have it's like a discussion about people who write music and people who perform music, and there is an iron relationship between each group of characters like that.
Right.
But David, you were asking about the early years of Temple Sinai.
Sure.
And Ben joined when I think they were maybe 10 years old at the time. I'm not exactly sure, but because Ben came in at the beginning, he was able to forge a wonderful program, an annual program of 5 or 6 events, each of which he managed to get funded by various congregants who wanted to memorialize someone or honor someone. So these 5 or 6 annual events took place every year with him either doing them as an educational project or as a concert type thing. I should remember some of them. One of them was a concert in the fall. The other was a Yiddish night. The other was a lecture of some kind or other where he might do the music of the Renaissance, Jewish music. I can't remember the others, but anyhow, I think to this day, and one of them was the Young Artists Award.
I see. Wonderful.
So he instituted all of those wonderful programs, which I think Cantor Osborne continues to this day.
Mhm.
So he was able to, bring wonderful music to Temple Sinai within the
Build
service.
and let it grow. Yeah. And
Let
certainly
it grow and without the service, so that I don't know.
Right.
You were probably too young to attend any of those special concerts, which
I
were
didn't grow up
held.
at Temple Sinai. I grew up at Beth Emeth, but after I got married, I went to Temple Sinai.
Oh,
Yeah,
Beth Emeth, which
Beth Emeth.
Beth
Beth Emeth.
Emeth,
Yes.
which one? Which Beth Emeth is?
The one on Elder. Beth Emeth. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
Cantor Danto?
That's exactly right. Yes.
He was a good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. I knew his daughter. Yeah. I know his
really?
daughter.
Oh, right.
Yeah. His
Well,
two
now
daughters.
I was a good friend with the family, and I became very close friends with his wife too. with,
Is the
Yes.
daughter the lawyer? The one that
There's a
married?
lawyer and there's another one, an older one that's living in New York, I believe.
great family, great group.
Yes, wonderful, talented, and remarkable as you are, and it's as you say. We're talking about locally with Temple Sinai, but your music, as I said early on, has heard all over the world, and one interesting one is in Japan.
Japan.
Oh, in Japan, yes.
Yes, if you can elaborate a bit on that experience and.
Well, I guess they contacted me once.
Can I tell the story?
you can.
Okay, because I can be quick. Ben was totally surprised one day to get a phone call from Boston. I think it was Temple Isaiah, and they invited him to come for the weekend because a Japanese choir was visiting who was doing an entire program of Ben Steinberg music. So after Ben got up off the floor, he said, "Of course I will come." And it was the beginning of a love affair with this particular group who has 90 churches throughout Japan.
Wow.
Who create these marvelous choirs who sing Hebrew and Jewish music.
Hebrew.
Yeah,
And
Hebrew.
mostly authentically in Hebrew. Wow.
In Hebrew. So when Ben went to Boston, they asked him to conduct them. And at the rehearsal, it's a little anecdote that he loves to tell. He was sitting for dinner with a group of them. I think it was the conductor at the time of the Japanese choir. And you sat down to speak and you said, "I'm sorry, I don't speak Japanese, but do you speak English?" They said, "In Hebrew, we do not speak English, but we speak Hebrew very well."
Wow.
So that floored Ben.
An international language known as Hebrew. Wow, that's amazing.
Right.
So you get to communicate through Hebrew. Wow.
So subsequently, they invited Ben to Japan on 4 different occasions.
Wow.
Where he taught in their seminary. And on 2 occasions, he conducted his prize-winning Holocaust cantata, Echoes of Children, to groups of 5,000 people.
Wow.
And it was one of the most moving moments, I think, of our lives,
For ours, yeah.
to be there in the presence of the Israel ambassador to Japan and various other dignitaries. And the last time he did it, the second time, it was in honor of the opening of their new Holocaust Education Center and Museum, which was named after Anne Frank. They have a special relationship had with
Right.
Otto Frank,
Oh,
Anne's father.
I did not know that. Wow.
And it is just serendipity that they met on a parking lot in Israel. The Japanese group was touring and Otto Frank was visiting.
Fascinating.
And they met at this gas station where they were having coffee. And when they found out who he was, they embraced him and formed this wonderful friendship. And Otto Frank, when he died, bequeathed to this Japanese group all the artifacts he had still in his possession that belonged to his daughter, Anne. So they've named the Holocaust Center after her.
Which city in Japan is it in?
Hiroshima. It's next door to Hiroshima.
Wow.
I'm
I was
not
there.
sure.
I didn't
Yeah?
know about it.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God. If you
My
go
son
there-
went, yeah, for as part of his university. So my wife and I went, and we went to Hiroshima, which was moving in its own way.
Right.
I didn't know about the Anne Frank exhibit. I would have
Yes.
loved to have
Well,
gone.
next time you go, look it up.
Wow.
These are, the people are called Beit Shalom, the Christian Friends of Israel.
That is such
They're a magnificent group.
wow. I'll never forget Fiddler on the Roof was so popular in Japan because of the,
Yeah.
and you think, what's the connection? But a love of tradition
Yes.
is something that they and the Jewish people hold so dear.
That's
And,
right.
but to also have the empathy with the Holocaust is remarkable. Yeah.
Well, this particular group,
It is.
they pray for the peace of Jerusalem 3 times a day. It's their
Wow.
religion. Yeah.
Wow. Truly
They-
incredible. So let's listen to another piece of music. Now, which I erroneously started off by saying, we're going to do the solo La Kol Zman.
La Coquette.
Right, which is,
I'm sorry.
no, you,
To everything there is a season.
right,
David, the story there too. I just looked it up out of curiosity because everything he writes is dedicated to someone, either a commission or a gift. This was a gift to Lori Weingort, Severin Weingort's daughter, on the
Okay.
occasion of her bat mitzvah,
oh my,
1979.
wow.
So this was a gift to Lori.
Oh, that's so nice. Let's hear it.
And
right
it is so appropriate for this time, to everything there is a season.
now. Absolutely. Hear it right now.
Oh
Thank you. What a beautiful song that was.
Pleasure.
Do you, 90 years old, do you have anything still, inspiration, does any inspiration come to you where you want to write?
Yeah, the challenge for me is to want to write, but to write something which is either new or which is has new ideas, and the sort of thing that people like me want to devote their life to.
Right. So coming up with something new
Yeah.
is the challenge. Do you find creativity has changed over the years with your life? You find
Has
more,
what?
has creativity as one ages, has it changed at all as a young man, middle-aged man, or as an older man?
Oh, sure, you change all the time. That's what makes life worth living, and creates what it's supposed to create. The option of writing any number of styles and making them fit is what makes it all about. What makes life all about.
Right.
Unfortunately, the energy isn't quite the same.
Well,
Right.
This is true.
That's the difference. As
how
a
long-
younger man, he could write for hours on end.
Sure.
He would write through the lunch hour, through the dinner hour, every weekend. But things have changed.
Right.
The energy just is not the same.
Some people have jobs and other people have callings.
Mm.
And it's not a
Sure.
choice. You have to do it. I know when somebody asks me about getting into acting, I tell them, if you don't have any other choice, if this is, you have to do it. Otherwise, you'll get out, because it's just, it's a difficult profession. But some people have a passion and they have no choice in life. This is what I have to do. And I think that it's obviously been the path that you've taken, and it's been, as you say from the beginning, it's a part of your life, in every stretch of the word. So that the music is just a part of your life rather than a separate job or something.
Right.
Albeit a very important part.
Yes. Do you listen to music during the day?
Do I
Listen to music
listen to music?
during the day?
You never stop listening.
Yes. What kind of music do you love to listen to?
Well, music over a very wide.
Mostly classical, opera. He loves to listen to Pavarotti, Jan Pierce, the old guys.
Right. Yes.
And he'll play occasionally too. He plays. Right, Ben?
Yeah, I get an opportunity to play it. And sometimes the people who are commissioning me to write a new piece of music will make special requisitions. They'd like it to hear and such, and is it possible for me to do this and this, and so on and so forth. And that's fun. That's fun to do.
Excellent. I guess fun is a big part of it too.
Absolutely.
Yes. How long have you both been married?
Do you remember?
I think I'm in trouble here. But
69 years
Oh my God. Wow.
in
Mazel tov.
December. In December.
it could
In
get
December.
serious.
Oh, mazel tov.
Thank
And
you.
was music part of how did you meet, or how you met?
That's a funny story because we were both volunteers at the YMHA downtown on Brunswick and Spadina,
Wow.
the two different houses. I taught dance and he did the choir, and he worked with something called the Hebrew Youth Club, who were the kids, the children of the Holocaust who were brought over as orphans. And so this was kind of like a social experiment. He was only 18 and I was 17, I think, but we were working with these kids. And at one point, one of the clubs at the Y said, "We're having a dance, Benny, and we want you to come and you have to bring a date." So he's thinking to himself, who can come to this kind of a dance with these kids? And he thought of me because I already know these kids. And so we went to the dance and the rest was history.
Wow.
right?
Love at first sight. So there was music on that day.
There was music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What a
and
beautiful
dancing.
volunteer opportunity you both took advantage of there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I can't thank you both enough, and to just explore a bit of your life and your contributions to Temple Sinai, to the Jewish world as a whole and beyond when we talk about Japan. And may you live another 90 years. You're remarkable. May you both. And we're going to end with a song that you hear on, I guess it's also on the high holidays, but certainly every Saturday. A great song, and this one is going to be in Jerusalem, Shalom Rav.
Oh,
And
yes.
we're going to see this as well with Sharon Azraeli. You want to talk a little bit about it before we end? We'll end with this musical video, but about the inspiration.
It's a piece that really I recall it its birth very clearly. And it kind of wrote itself as it can very often to composers. You
Right.
just have to get out of the way and let it and allow it to,
Right.
so without going around too much. But that piece certainly wrote itself, and it's appeared in areas and in countries which just bowled me over, because I couldn't believe that the piece kept.
It's used all over the
It's
world
used in so
Wow.
many different places.
in various different aspects, for weddings, for funerals, for
Oh, interesting.
whatever, because it's a song of peace, and it's used in churches a lot, by college choirs and high school choirs. That and his Oseh Shalom, also a song of peace, used all over. But there's a little anecdote about Shalom Rav, because he wrote it. It wrote itself literally, and he put it on the shelf because he didn't think it was worthy. But then when he had to write a Friday evening service on commission, he needed a Shalom Rav. And I said, use that one on the shelf.
Uh-huh.
He said, well, I don't know. I said, use it. And the rest there is history,
So
because it's become,
Well, that's
that's the piece by which he has become known. He's Mr. Shalom Rav.
Oh, that's interesting.
In the
But-
Reformed Jewish music movement. And David, you should know that the Union of Reformed Congregations has bestowed upon Ben their highest honor, the Eisendrath Bearer of Light Award, which is given every 2 years to only 3 people. And his was bestowed on him, I think, 12 years ago.
That's
A
remarkable.
great honor
That's
for
true.
his contribution to Jewish music.
Wow.
That's our Ben.
that's been
That's
fun.
you say our Ben, the Temple Sinai Ben, and
Yeah.
and to the world.
To the
Yeah.
world.
Well,
Yes.
to these places where I've been where I've devoted many years of my own life, they're all
Gratified.
gracious. They're all gracious people, and they're wonderful. They've been very important parts of my life.
Yes, absolutely. It's those connections that really mark our life with the music, but the people we meet, and
Of course.
that you created it for. And this song hit your heart. It's about peace, but the music also
Of course.
hits your heart and soul. And there's a unique inspirational feeling you get when you hear it. So
Exactly.
thank you both for a wonderful conversation. And
Thank you.
it's been a
Thank
real
you,
pleasure.
David. Thank you, and good luck to you. I know there are hard times ahead, but it'll get better.
We will get better. What a great way to end with Shalom Rav. And Mazel Tov to you both, and be well.
Toda rabba.
Toda rabba. Bye-bye.